Good morning, everyone. It is so good to be with you today on this October morning. Welcome to the First Unitarian Universalist Church of Nashville. My name is Danielle Garrett. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm serving as your student minister this year. Whoever you are and whatever road has led you here this morning, know that you are welcome here. We are so glad you've come to worship with us. As Unitarian Universalists, we do not share a common creed, but rather covenant together to affirm our interdependence, celebrate our differences, and promote justice. On Sunday mornings, we bring our whole selves, our many names for the divine, and our diverse spiritual paths, and join together in worship. Through joyful music, quiet prayer, and thoughtful words, we seek to honor that which we hold most sacred and affirm our congregation's mission to create community, nurture spiritual growth, and to act on our values in the broader world, guided by reason and compassion. I'd like to extend a special welcome to anyone this morning who is visiting for the first time. If you're seeking a spiritual home, we hope that you might find it here. If you're joining us live this morning and you feel comfortable, we'd love for you to say hello in the chat so we can welcome you. You can find helpful resources and more information about our congregation by visiting our website at firstunash.org. You can also feel free to direct message me on Zoom this morning or reach out via studentmin, M-I-N, at thefund.org for more information about the congregation. And I'll put those addresses in the chat as well so you have them handy. Now, our developmental lead minister, Reverend Diane Daugert, is away from the pulpit this morning, but we are just delighted to welcome the Reverend Katherine Jesch as our guest preacher this morning. Reverend Katherine is a community minister affiliated with the First Unitarian Church in Portland, Oregon. The primary focus of her ministry for the past 2 decades has been environmental justice, advocacy, and activism. Reverend Katherine is now retired, and her ministry is evolving to support individual and community resilience through spiritual practice and reflection that deepens our connection with each other and our earth home. Welcome, Reverend Katherine, and welcome to all of you who are joining us today. We are so glad you're all with us this morning.
Good morning. My name is Jay Tiefenbrunn. My pronouns are she, her, and I am the Director of Music Ministries here at First UU Nashville. Our morning song is a favorite by Unitarian Universalist singer-songwriter Jim Scott. And our music this morning is supported by voices from our choir. I hope you'll join me in singing Gather the Spirit.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. We gather this morning to share a time of wholeness and holiness in which we offer gratitude for the wonders of life. In this time of uncertainty, we seek endurance, resilience, truth-telling, and encouragement. We are here because there is a richness and an energy in our gathering, even virtually, which enhances who we are and what we are capable of. Come and let us worship together.
Hi, my name is Gwen Johnson. I use she, her pronouns. The words for the chalice lighting were written by Lindsay Bates. To face the world's shadows, a chalice of light. To face the world's coldness, a chalice of warmth. To face the world's terrors, a chalice of courage. To face the world's turmoil, a chalice of peace. May its glow fill our spirits, our hearts, and our lives.
Good morning. I'm Marguerite Mills, your Director of Lifespan Religious Education, and I use pronouns she, her. Our story this morning comes from Christopher Bice, who is the minister at the Tennessee Valley UU Church in Knoxville. It is called Higgins, a Drop with a Dream. Once upon a time, there was a drop of water named Higgins. Higgins was no ordinary drop of water. He was a drop with a dream. He lived in a valley where it had not rained in a very, very long time. So all of the lovely green grass was turning brown and all the beautiful flowers were wilting and all the trees were starting to droop. Higgins' dream was that one day the valley would be a beautiful place again. But what could he do? After all, he was only one drop of water. So one day Higgins decided to travel and tell others about his dream, and all of the other drops listened very politely, but no one believed that his dream would come true. Higgins, said one, get your head out of the clouds. You can't spend your whole life dreaming. Well, Higgins decided that he had to do something to make this dream come true. And so he began to think and think and think. One day, as he was walking by a rusty old bucket, he got an idea. If enough of us drops of water got together in this bucket, there would be enough water to sprinkle for a few flowers to help them grow and become beautiful again. Eagerly, Higgins told everyone his great idea, but everyone thought he was being foolish. That Higgins is nothing but a dreamer, they said. Well, Higgins decided he had to do something to convince the others that he was right. So he said to them, I don't know about you, but I am getting into that bucket. I hope some of you will join me, and there might be enough water then to help at least some of the flowers grow beautiful again. So Higgins ran as fast as he could, hopped way up in the air, and landed kerplunk right into the bottom of that bucket. And there he sat, just a drop in the bucket. For a long time, Higgins was very lonely. It seemed like no one else was going to join him. But after a while, some of the other drops could see that the grass was truly dying and the flowers were wilting and trees were drooping. And they all agreed that something must be done. Suddenly, one drop shouted, I'm going in the bucket with Higgins. And he leaped through the air and he landed kerplunk into the bucket. And then two other drops yelled, wait for us. And they hopped through the air and landed in the bucket. And then 10 drops jumped through the air into the bucket. And then 30 and 50, and then hundreds of drops came from all around just to hop in the bucket. Soon, the bucket was completely full of water, but there were still more drops that wanted to join. So they found another bucket and hopped in. And before long, there were 2 buckets of water, and then 3, 4, 10, hundreds, and then thousands of buckets of water. Along came a powerful breeze. It blew over all of the buckets and all of the water flowed together to make a mighty stream. Everywhere the water flowed, the grass turned green again, and the flowers bloomed, and the trees stood tall and straight once more. All of this happened because Higgins had a dream, and his dream came true, because he knew that although he was just a drop in the bucket, enough drops in the bucket make a bucket full. And when there are enough buckets with the wind behind them, then justice will roll down like waters and righteousness like a mighty stream. And so ends our story.
Thank you for that story, Marguerite. That was delightful. You may know that we share every Sunday's collection with an organization whose work outside our walls aligns with our values. Our Share the Plate partner for the month of October is Oasis Center, a nationally recognized organization on a mission to help young people in Middle Tennessee move into happy, healthy, and productive adulthood. You can learn more in the worship portal at firstuunash.org, where you can also find the link to our online donation forum. The offering is a sacrament of the free church. It is supported by the voluntary generosity of all who join with us. As always, your gifts, like your presence among us, are received with gratitude. Our reading this morning is a poem by Wendell Berry. If we will have the wisdom to survive, to stand like slow growing trees on a ruined place, renewing, enriching it, if we will make our seasons welcome here, asking not too much of earth or heaven, then a long time after we are dead, the lives our lives prepare will live here. Their houses strongly placed upon the valley sides, fields and gardens rich in the windows. The river will run clear as we never know it, and over it the birdsong like a canopy. On the levels of the hills will be green meadows, stock bells in noon shade. On the steeps where greed and ignorance cut down the old forest, an old forest will stand, its rich leaf fill drifting on its roots. The veins of forgotten springs will have opened. Families will be singing in the fields. In their voices, they will hear a music risen out of the ground. They will take nothing out of the ground. They will not return, whatever the grief at parting. Memory, native to this valley, will spread over it like a grove, and memory will grow into legend, legend into song, song into sacrament. The abundance of this place, the songs of its people and its birds will be health and wisdom and indwelling light. This is no paradisal dream. Its hardship is its possibility.
There's a strange kind of chaos loose in the world. Seemingly unrelated disasters are overlapping and amplifying each other all around us. Record hurricanes, droughts, and Western wildfires, along with racial violence and, of course, the pandemic, cause massive disruptions, loss of life, and huge economic costs. At the same time, scientific advances, including a COVID vaccine, private enterprise space exploration, and many lesser advances, help to counter some of the disasters, while our understanding of the complexities of climate change fuels calls for major policy and market changes to reduce the risks of disasters. The world we thought we knew is dying. At the same time, a new one is struggling to be born. Chaos is beginning to take its toll, and we are longing for normality. But the normality we think we long for evaporated a long time ago. Here's the way visionary author Charles Eisenstein, a writer and environmental philosopher, describes this in an article he wrote last year. Just as the pandemic was taking hold, he said, for years, normality has been stretched nearly to its breaking point, a rope pulled tighter and tighter, waiting for a nip of the black swan's beak to snap it in two. Now that the rope has snapped, do we tie its ends back together? Or shall we undo its dangling braids still further to see what we might weave from them? I've been thinking about the implications of this challenging metaphor ever since. What might it take to untangle the braids and follow them into a different future? Truly, this is a time of chaos and destruction, of almost biblical proportions. We usually think of disasters as being natural, like earthquakes and tornadoes and wildfires. And for these, we tend to absolve ourselves from the blame. It's an act of God, we say, and we set about putting the pieces back together again. But nothing about the structures and power relationships really changes. And in way too many cases, the natural disasters are made worse, causing much unnecessary pain and suffering. And in putting the pieces back together, we have a tendency to strengthen the existing structures of power and trickle more of the economy up to those who already have most of it. There are also plenty of other disasters that result entirely from human actions, including colonialism and conquest and war. Those are still going on. And resource extraction, which is merely another type of colonialism that is accelerating in our current era. Stealing resources destroys land or water that supports human communities, which are often indigenous communities and wildlife habitats. In these cases, the rich and powerful I'm sorry, I lost my place already. In these cases, the rich and powerful take the benefits and leave the toxic waste behind to poison the people and animals who remain, destroying their ability to sustain themselves. We have yet to be willing to mitigate the pain and suffering from these disasters, and those who benefit certainly don't bear the costs. But many of us prefer to avoid change. Maybe we just don't trust that we can exist without the hierarchy, power, and authority that currently exists, keeping order in our society. But these last couple of years have pushed us to the edge, showing widening cracks in our social order and laying bare the broken pieces of a society steeped in hierarchy, patriarchy, and white supremacy. That system perpetuates poverty, hunger, dislocation, ill health, and a multitude of symptoms of inequality. Fortunately, it's times like these that shine a light on these symptoms, giving indications that the world is hanging on in survival mode. Some of us may be hoping, at least at some level, that the old world really is dying. And now we can notice the new world that is struggling to be born. It's still early in this process, and it's going to need all the help we can give it. The dire situation raises a couple of questions for me, and maybe for you too. After finding the global situation as I've described it, I ask myself, what would I like to see instead? Or what do I imagine that new world should look like? And what role am I called to play in this crisis? The first question is hard to respond to in this setting, where I stand here and tell you all what I think the world will or could or should look like. There are lots of workshops that invite participants to imagine that future, to dream of what we could have together in collaboration. And books, there are many books to inspire you about the future you might be willing to work toward. There's a name for what I long to see in that new world. We have a religious word, a theological word for it. It's called beloved community. I'm sure you've heard of it before. Note that it's not possible to arrive at the gates of this city alone by yourself, with just your solo adventures to claim as worthy of admission. Beloved community requires community. We are all in this together. We help and support one another. We affirm everyone's worth and dignity. We recognize our interdependence in this new world, and we try to live by it. That would be a beautiful world to find. The second question isn't any easier. What role am I called to play in this crisis? I've been working towards what Joanna Macy calls the Great Turning for my entire life. That's a move toward a way of life that's more whole and healthy for both humans and other life forms. I chose a career in natural resources management to make sure we take care of the earth and promote justice in our communities. I pursued that career in the U.S. Forest Service for almost 20 years before finding Unitarian Universalism and a call to ministry. In the 20 years since I finished seminary, caring for earth and community has been the focus of my identity and my activism as a minister. I think my ministry has had a real impact for Unitarian Universalism, But the world still continues to spiral into climate chaos, environmental destruction, and human rights abuses. There is still so much work to be done. Since I reached my 70s, I've noticed a pull to be more quiet and contemplative. I'm less drawn to the activist role and more inclined to reflection and study these days. I've seen the powerful work that young people are doing, and I'm heartened by their energy and smarts and persistence. I'm so proud of them for picking up the mantle and not deferring to us older folks who have been in the fray for too long. So now I'm trying to take another look at the assumptions about where we are as a society, where we as a society need to be heading, and what it will take to weather the storms of what appears to be the coming dark times. So that's a bit about my journey. You can see a few twists and turns, especially from secular work to religious community. Whatever role you are playing or might play depends on who you are, your personality, your skills and capacities, what phase of life you're in, maybe young and encumbered, or maybe with family obligations. If you're raising a family or serving a profession or both, whether you have resources that allow you to contribute to a cause, either directly or indirectly, and especially important, what passion will draw you in a direction that will be most useful to a hurting world and to your community. What we are called to do will change, or maybe has already changed for you. Just like any other part of life, we all change. I've led a number of groups in these explorations of the world, of what the world could be like and what we are called to do. And I tell you, they can be really fun and enlightening. Actually, working together demonstrates without a doubt, the most important message. Do not do this work alone. No one is an island. That's not just a truism that we hear in songs and stories and cultural messages. We know this from life experience and also from our Unitarian Universalist faith. Our 7 principles highlight several dimensions of connection. For example, the aspiration of justice, equity, and compassion in human relations, acceptance of one another, and the use of the democratic process. You can't do democracy alone, after all. The goal of world community and recognition of the interdependent web of all existence of which we are only a part. Our faith is all about community. So I want to encourage you to keep that truth of the interdependence, that longing for community, in front of mind when you're noticing particular traumas in the world around you and searching for the role that you are called to play. A number of years ago, I was in a workshop with Joanna Macy, the great Buddhist teacher and environmental philosopher. A group of us were discussing the state of the world and whether it really is dying. Joanna's response has struck me ever since. She said, "We are hospice workers accompanying the dying of a planet," or "We are midwives tending to the birth of a new tomorrow." It doesn't matter which, because the work is the same. And I would say now we may be called to play both roles at once in our lives. I have found this to be an incredible insight while I'm spending time reflecting on transition or transformation in our larger world. And I wanted to think about what roles might be useful in supporting this transition. Birth and death are very different, of course, but the skills needed for these roles are similar. A good understanding of the process involved, a strong sense of presence, caring, empathy, compassion, an ability to provide both physical and emotional support, and a willingness to act as an advocate for the patient, our world that we are taking care of. How might those roles be of use in what Joanna Macy calls this great turning, this time of transition or transformation of the world we know into the world we see in our dreams? The technical skills of the midwife or hospice worker aren't the focus here. I'm imagining the emotional and spiritual dimensions of witnessing to the dying of our existing planet and witnessing the emergence of a new world. These will be critical to the process of transformation. In such a time, there will always be an inclination to hold on to the old, to the familiar. And there's a natural tendency to resist the new, the unfamiliar. Who can help us through that door? Like midwives and hospice workers, we will be part of a team, supporting each other, sharing the load, spelling the one who has reached their limit, and assuming we will be spelled when we need to rest. Members of the communities we are a part of will recognize what it is that needs to change, and together we can envision and then create the change we want to see. We'll need to strengthen our skills for collaborative processes for decision-making, consensus building, and the like. We'll need to strengthen our spirits with a strong spiritual practice from time to time. And we'll need to be intentional within our communities about developing resilience and imagination. It seems like the roles of midwife and hospice worker will be exactly right for the job. And if you are practicing these skills within your congregation here, you'll find a safe space to practice new ways of being together. And this community will benefit as well. I've heard that the Chinese character for chaos is a combination of the letters for crisis and opportunity. The past we knew just before the arrival of COVID won't be returning. And we can't yet see what the future will be. When things fall apart, when our world is in crisis, there is an opening for something new. In this time of uncertainty, there are still reasons to hope for that future. In this in-between time, it would serve us well to begin talking about how we want the world to look and what new roles each of us and all of us might take on. Building a picture of that future and our place in it can help to make the hope become the self-fulfilling prophecy. May it be so. Will you join me in prayer? Spirit of life, source of our hope and our vision, bless us with strength and courage as we work together to nurture this beloved community and find creative and inspiring ways to help birth a new world of peace, beauty, and love. Help us find the strength we need to face this dark time with courage and compassion. Reinforce the connections among the faithful in this community so that we can discover again and yet again that we are not alone. With gratitude for all the blessings of our lives, let us seek to use our gifts to bless the world. Amen.
Thank you, Reverend Katherine. Our closing song is the Irish tune Slain, which only became a hymn in 1927 when it was cast with the lyrics, Be Thou My Vision. Today we sing the lyrics penned by UU minister Reverend Thomas Michelson for the ordination of Reverend Charity Rowley as Minister of Religious Education. As always, Holling has provided a beautiful accompaniment to this hymn, and also one of our tenors, Brian Carlson, lent his voice to guide the singing. I hope you'll join us.
Wake now my senses and hear the earth call. Feel the deep power of being in all. Keep with Voices of suffering fill the white sky. Take as your neighbor, both stranger and friend, praying and striving their hardship to end. Wake now, my conscience, with justice thy guide. Join with all people whose rights are denied. Take not for granted a privileged place. God's love embraces the whole human race. Wake now, my vision of ministry clear. Brighten my pathway with radiance here. Mingle my calling with all who will share. Work toward a planet transformed by our care.
The words for the chalice extinguishing were written by Elizabeth Sell Jones. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
For our benediction, I'll return to the words of Wendell Berry from our reading. If we will have the wisdom to survive, then a long time after we are dead, the lives our lives prepare, we'll live here. The abundance of this place, the songs of its people and its birds will be health and wisdom and indwelling light. This is no paradisal dream. Its hardship is its possibility. May we make its possibility our reality. Amen and blessed be. Thank you.